Now to our focus of our conversation this morning, Oscars winner Colin Firth spoke about portraying a stammering British sovereign in the Oscar-winning film The King's Speech, which swept 2011 Cinema Awards season.
My sister is a voice therapist, but she does not work with people who stammer, and she was not advising us on that either. She gave us some ideas for how to dramatize the therapy montage. So I was absolutely on my own, and so I used George VI, and I used David Seidler, our writer, who stammered himself, and who was extremely eloquent on the experience of stammering. He described it as a drowning sensation. I believed that it was very important that we got some information about the difficulties of his childhood. What I worried about was having to hear it from me, because I didn't want a poor me aspect to the character. Basically, Tom and I worked very closely on that to make sure that it wasn't self-pitying and sentimental, and that there was just enough information, and then we could undercut it with a bit of humor, a bit of irony.
I've always had respect for them as individuals, and of course my opinion changed because I learned a lot more about the character I was playing and King Bertie. So if anything, I think I left the film with greater respect for them than I'd started.
Yes, afterwards, my speech was less fluent, even less fluent than normal for some time. But I don't think that's really stammering.
A good precedence to our conversation of the day ahead of the International Stuttering or Stammering Awareness Day that is normally marked on the 22nd of October. To help us understand this speech impediment and of course the reality of living with the same is Sister Gladys Gachanja, who is a speech and language therapist. She joins us in studio. We are also joined by Dominic Kiplimo, who speaks with a stammer, also joined virtually by Christine Alukongo, who also speaks with a stammer, and later on we'll be joined by a caregiver to also give us their perspective. Thank you all for joining us on this conversation, and I'll start off with you, sister. How can you describe stuttering or stammering?
It is a condition where the speaker knows very well what to say, but it's not coming out at that time. I give an example. If you are driving, you know very well you are going straight, but the car turns to the right. You struggle trying to change, but it happens. Yeah.
And what would cause that?
According to research, this is it's coming from the gene. It is genetical, and it affects the neurological development of a child. So it's not from the parent, but it is something just happens which is neurological, and that is it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you say neurological, exactly what do you mean? Is it an impairment of the brain?
It affects the brain. Yes, it affects the brain. Yeah.
So it means it doesn't develop normally, or is there what happens exactly?
It's the element which contributes to affecting that coming out of what you would want to speak. Yeah. It happens along line the development. Yeah.
Okay, so are we saying if you do not have somebody in your family line that has a stutter or a stammer, you will not get it?
Not really. It can happen.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. And we have one, I was reading up that there are actually two types of stammering. Those ones that you're born with and it's diagnosed when you're young, but there are those that you can actually acquire probably due to an injury. Is that the case?
Most of the time, it is realized that you have stammering when you are young. But at times, it is seen when you are a bit older. And the possibility of overcoming it is high for those who experience it when they are younger than the other way around. Yeah.
Okay, and for somebody who's going through this with their child, I mean, when the child is growing up, they are learning how to pronounce words, how to speak. So how can you tell apart a child that is stuttering and one that is just developing speech?
Yeah, there is a difference between developing speech and stuttering. There are three things which we normally see in stuttering. One can be blocked. We call it blockage. You would want to say children, you just say ch, and you stop. You take long, so you are blocked. So that is one of the elements. At times there is prolongation. You would want to say school, you start saying school. You prolong a sound. Yeah. And another type, you repeat. Like, I'm going to school, you might say, I'm going, or going to school. Yeah. So that separates from the other types of problems of speech.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there are many others that are there, and you'll be talking about that in a moment. Let's hear from those who live this reality. I'll start off with you, Dominic. Dominic, when did you realize that you are a bit different from the rest of the children growing up?
Yes. According to me, when I was born, nilijipata tu mina stammer vivi hivi since I was born. So even nimeongeanga tu tangu kitambo. So mimi nimezoea tu hivi. So hivyo ndo nilianza.
Okay, lakini ukiwa na watoto wenzako, of course, huku wanajua difference. Watoto walikuwa na kucheka, ama how did you know you were different?
So the difference was, nikiongea wanacheka. I was so different from them. Hao wako so fluent. So mi lazima ningestammer. Ningepiga stammer zangu hapo, wanicheke, hivyo tu. So nilijigundua mapema.
Okay, now in your family, do you have anyone who has a stammer?
For real, my cousin, she is a girl in class 8 matron, and a stammer. But my parents are okay.
And did you find out about your cousin way after, or you knew when you were young that at least there's somebody else like you?
When I was like in Form 2. Yes.
Is when you discovered about your cousin.
Yeah.
So all along, as you saw yourself have a stammer and the rest of the kids are speaking fluently, what did you think was wrong or is different about you?
So when I was in class 3, nilipata one storybook about KK, the Wonderful Boy.
Yes.
So nikaisoma, nikaona I'm so different from them. Maybe the problem was allelia syllabaris. Because in every word, ningeongeza some syllable, like nak or na. So nikajua I stammer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting perspective there. Sister, please explain what he just mentioned that he noticed when he's reading.
Yeah, could be it's an element of prolongation. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, you called it what again, Dominic?
Syllabaris.
Alelelia syllabaris. What
Yeah.
is that? So did you used to pronounce or elongate your words, or you used to actually have a hard time, as the sister is saying, either blocked or a prolongation of the words?
I think from the explanation of Sister Gladys,
Yes.
all the explanation yenye amesema I've undergone through it.
The three of them?
Yes.
Okay.
The blocked one, in pronunciation, kuongeza the words in every sentence. Yeah. Hadi leo bado naongeza pia.
Aha. Aya, lakini so far sijasikia ukiongeza yoyote. Okay, let me ask, when do you normally have the stutter more than other times?
When I'm anxiety in a public, it happens that I'm new to them. Yeah. In the place that mtu akianza kucheka, I'll stammer. But because I'm alone, najikaza.
Okay, sasa leo na tumeonana for the first time. You're very relaxed.
It's because unanielewa, na nakuelewa, so I'm just cool.
All right, well done, well done. Let's bring in somebody else who lives this reality, and that's Christine Alukongo, who joins us from Mombasa. Christine, when did you discover you were a little bit different from the other kids?
Okay, when I was a little girl, however, my elder brother was a stammerer. So I would listen to him speaking, then I myself, I followed suit. So I thought it was something normal for us. However, when I joined school, I discovered, no, the other kids, the way they're speaking, it's different from the way me and my brother speak. And at times they would make fun of us. So that's when I realized, no, there's something wrong. As much as I have a similarity with my brother, we are different from the other children.
Okay, and at this point, what did your parents tell you was going on?
My mother, I think from my mother's perspective, she took it as something normal, like stammering is not a disease, it's not a disability. So she would encourage us to speak. Then she was very patient with us. Like if you are talking to her, she was very patient. She would just listen to you and make sure you complete your sentence. She would never complete the sentence for you. And then she was very protective. Like if the other kids would, if we are playing around and you are stammering and then another kid would start imitating the way you are talking, she was very protective. She would just tell them not to do it.
Okay, so now you say it is yourself, your brother. Is there anyone else in the family who has a stutter?
Yeah, I have a niece, I have a nephew, and then from my paternal side, there are several stammerers. And then also I have my late brother. He was a little bit of a stammerer.
Okay, so clearly this is really predominant in your family. Now, sister, you mentioned it is very genetic, most often than not.
Yes.
And somebody here is saying there's something else. Their father actually started stuttering when they got a stroke. So it can also be as a result of disease, right?
Yes.
Speak about that.
Yeah, because it can happen. It affects the speaking, the fluency. That happens. Yeah.
Okay, so in
But
this...
very rare.
Yeah. And in this case, and I'm seeing here, Cynthia is asking, if a child fell and hit their head, would that lead to a stammer?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It can happen to another different type of speech disorder, which is not stammering, called dysarthria. Yes.
What exactly is it?
Because it can happen. I give an example of you don't have the strength to talk for a full sentence. Maybe you start and you reach halfway. This is my book. You might be saying, this is my book. So the power to produce continuously reduces.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, in the cases of both Dominic and Christine, they realized that they were different because the other kids sounded different.
Yeah.
So if you as a parent do not know the difference, you can easily miss out on your child having a stutter. So what are those very, very obvious symptoms, if you may call them?
Yes, it is the very 3 elements. If there is repetition, if there is blockage, in fact, for a small child would come and wanting to give you a story, but maybe even closing their eyes, not able to continue. And some parents would say, stop talking like that. Can you talk and finish? When they don't know, this seems to be a challenge. Yeah, so repetition, blockage, and that prolongation. That is what helps us to separate from any other speech delay or disfluency.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do teachers understand this condition, and are they normally on the lookout?
Yeah, that is the big drama now, and it is the importance of the International Awareness Day, because majority do not know. Because where I work in Kenya Institute of Special Education, children are brought and we do assess, and they explain how they struggle in school. Like we assess in schools, they are asked to read a sentence. Being tensed, the way Dominic has explained, makes it even worse. And everybody in the class is waiting for you to speak. So even blockage is seen, or repetition, and the rest laugh. Most teachers do not know. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
and we'll talk more about the psychosocial support that is needed to help these children along. And I'm told we are now joined by the caregiver I mentioned earlier on, Martha Wamaitha, who is a caregiver to a son who speaks with a stammer. Asante sana Martha kujiunga na sisi. When did you find out Ndongo alikuwa na stammer?
Akiwa na miaka 3.
Sikusikii vizuri, rudia tena.
Alikuwa na miaka 3.
Ehe, na alikuwa anaongea vipi ukajua hapa kuna kitu?
Dongo alianzia kuongea kitambo akiwa mdogo. Alafu kwenye 3 years, alifikisha 3 years akienda shule, akaanza kustama. Nilikuwa nafikiri ni kuimitate watoto nje. Sasa nilimfuatilia, nikafikiria ama ni kugongwa, amegongwa kichwa. Nikampeleka hosi. Akaenda akapigwa picha, ikaonekana haina shida. Sasa hivyo ndio nilijua.
Okay, na wakati ulijua, ulifikiria ulikuwa na uoga mtoto maybe hata waiongea vizuri ama atakuwa na shida maishani? What was your reaction?
Nilistuka.
Uliwahi ona mtu yeyote mwingine akiwa na stammer maishani?
Nimewahi ona. My neighbor. Lakini alikuwa mtu mzee kabisa.
Okay, na familia ilikuwa inasemaje sasa?
Familia ndio ilikuwa imestuka kwa sababu si kitu ati alikuwa amezaliwa nayo. Tulijaribu kuchunguza shida ni gani, lakini hatukuweza kupata.
Na hakuna mtu ambaye
Sasa ikabidi sasa
kuna mtu yeyote mwingine
Yes.
ako na hiyo stammer kwenye familia?
Hapana, hakuna.
So kutoka hapo ulifanya nini ndio usaidie mtoto?
Sasa venye niona ameanza, nilikuwa mpaka na mchapa, nilikuwa naona ni kumitete watoto wale wengine. Sasa ilibidi sasa nimpeleke hospitali.
Ehe.
Kumpeleka nikaambiwa pigwe picha kichwa. Nikatumwa Kenyatta, nilipeleka mama Rusi. Nikaenda Kenyatta. Ndio walinituma Kenyatta. Fanya nilienda Kenyatta wakaniambia niende Kise. Sasa nikashangaa. Sasa Kenyatta na ndio mwisho wa hospitali. Sasa nikashangaa. Wakanituma huko Kise. Kenyatta nikaambiwa hakuna shida, hana shida yoyote kwa kichwa. Then wakaniambia anataka speech therapy.
Okay.
Wakanituma Kasarani, Kise.
All right, and that is the Kenya Institute of Special Education. And I see you, sister, laughing because I'm sure you've had this a lot from caregivers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What are the most probable reactions to a stutter in a child?
As Mama Dungu expressed,
Yes.
in fact, most children, even they are bitten. And the parent arrives saying, what do I do to this child? Because the big challenge is they focus on the fluency. You have to finish and you have to talk. And the parents even would want, what do you think this, when will it finish? Because even when we do therapy, it will take like 6 months or 6 weeks because they need like exact time when this is to end. Yeah. They react negatively.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And that negative reaction, what effect can it have on the child?
Yeah. In fact, stuttering, it is not only about speaking well in solving it. The main problem is the social impact which will happen to this person or this child. So, the other children laughing at the child, that is the biggest. And even the family, the immediate family, laughing and giving instructions, can you talk well? That worsens the situation. Yeah.
Okay, and stigma is really a reality for those living with a stutter. Dominic, umepitia mengi, ulikuwa umeniambia, tafadhali tugusie yapi haya?
Yes. Ukiwa unastama, unakipitia kingi sana. From childhood hadi leo, nimekipitia sana. Hadi nikiona mtoto anastama, nasikia kulia mwenyewe. Kuna time ile tukiwa primary school, kwa naita register, according vile meketi, I was number 17, I remember. So at a time, nikitaka evade kuitwa kwa register nistame, nisha walichukua compass. So vile mwalimu alifika number 10, nikajidunga kwa mkono. Hata alama iko hadi leo. So damu ikaanza kuuza. Nikaenda nje. Nikirudi, alikuwa ashamaliza kuita hiyo register. So nikaepa hiyo kustama. Another thing, kuna some audition pia ilikuwa imewekwa mahali. Nikaenda audition ya a theater. So nikajikaza, I was among the best. But the director was so furious na mimi. Clients nikastama, nikatolewa. Up to date, sijataka kurudi tena. Hivyo hivyo.
Okay, na sasa kama kijana una miaka ngapi sasa?
Nina 22 years.
Sasa of course umepitia ile dating phase, bado unaendelea kujua the opposite sex. Hapo kunaendagaje?
Hapo, I'm good at texting, lakini one-on-one vibe, I'm so poor. Naweza stam hadi atoroke. Though kuna, at a time, I was in Form 3, nikirudi shule. So, ile time nimeenda kupanda mat kurudi chuo, nikabagain about fare, nikastama. So, the truth, akanitusi. We ni mtu mkubwa, lakini hujui kuongea. Nika-relax. So, bila nilingia kwa mat, nikapata dem fulani. Anasoma Turbo Girls back then. Akafurahia na mimi. Ananiambia anapenda watu wanastama. Sasa, the rest is history.
Aha, ilikupatia motisha angalau.
Yeah, though alinitusi.
Nani sasa?
The two huyo makanga. Ananiambia hujui kuongea na bargain fare. Kwe vipi? Nikatulia. Though ukiwa na stama, unajipa moyo sana. Nikitafuta my attachment nikiwa kidadia, nilienda in an office, a county government office. Nikatuma from HR moja, alikuwa mama hivi. So vile nilifika hapo, sijui kama alikuwa na issues za kwake nyumbani ama nini. Nilifika pale, ile time nikatoa documents kumpa, akaniuliza some question, nikastama. Akaniambia wewe una stammer na niko too busy. Akatoka, akaniacha, akaniambia nikuja the following day. Vile nilienda the following day, akuwa. So hiyo chance ikapita hivyo.
Okay, na wazazi, familia, kuna mengi umepitia ama walikuelewa?
At a time, kuna some of your cousins, mkikosana na wao, lazima atakukejeli. Unajua nilikuwa nimezoea hata mpaka saa matusi fulani. Kwa nasema unaongea kama generator. Unajua generator vile ufanya hiyo sauti ile utoa? Kwa nakwambia unaongea kama generator. Au radio yenye imesha makaa. Ikisha ulikuwa unasikia ina katika. Hadi unaigonga nyuma. Yeah.
Okay.
At some time pia nishawahi kuongea ile at a time hadi unagonga chini mguu na mkono.
Wakati imekataa kutoka.
Yeah, sasa tulikuwa tumepika tu ya makazini pekee. Bahati mbaya bwana akakataa kutoka, nikapiga meza. Ugali mboga ikamwagika. Nikapigwa sana.
Jamini, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, and you've been through high school. I mean, right now you are in university. What are some of the experiences you've gone through?
Some of the experiences, though, nampa ongera sana my teacher of English, Madam Jemima Gidi, alinisaidia sana. At a time, tukisoma set books, ulikuwa unasoma in rows. So at first hakuwa anajua mimi na stammer. So ile time ilifika my turn, nikastammer. From that day hakuwa bother na mimi, lakini alikuwa ananipa some motisha. So ikinifika mimi nanyamaza. The rest akasoma kwa sababu nikijikaza kusoma yenye takuja next ni kicheko. Yeah.
Na watoto wengine, especially ukiwa form 1, walikukejeli?
Vibaya sana. Hadi leo kuna some memes naona kwa kejeli bado those people kwa stammer. Kitu kibaya ni ile unajua kwanza in high school una perform then the best wanapelekwa trip. At some point ilikuwa the best naenda trip. Sasa ile manjam unafurahia kwenda trip, unatusiwa bonge la tusi. Wewe unagoma unaringa nini?
I hear you, Dominic. Wow,
Yeah.
that is quite a difficult life to face on a daily. It takes a lot of self-will to live every single day with a positive attitude. Christine, you have a similar background, but you found a way through it. You can mention some of those experiences?
Okay, for me, when I was in the lower primary, I had the biggest challenge because most of the lessons were being taught in our mother tongue. And I would find it a little bit very difficult to talk my mother tongue. Back at home, I would be encouraged to either speak Kiswahili because the Kiswahili syllables are easier to pronounce than our vernacular. Now, in the lower primary, all the subjects are being taught in the vernacular. So at times, it was very difficult for me. And then came this exam, it's called reading, where every child, the words written on the blackboard, so you have to go and read each word, one by one. That was my biggest nightmare. However, I'm very grateful to my lower primary teacher. She would give me an alternative. Instead of reading, she would do the dictation. So she would dictate and then I would write instead of reading. Yeah.
Okay,
When
and go ahead.
Okay. When I moved to standard 4, it was a bit of a relief to me because in standard 4, you're supposed to speak English and Kiswahili. So mostly it was English. So I found it a little bit easier for me to interact in English than in the vernacular language. And then my class 4 teacher, I think it was just a way to motivate me to give me the confidence. He gave me the position of a class prefect. So I would be there having this responsibility as a class prefect, but then I would hardly interact, like communicate with the other children. Like if they're making noise as a class prefect, you are supposed to tell them, keep quiet. For me, I would not tell them keep quiet. I'll simply pick a piece of paper and a pen and start writing the noisemakers. So when the teacher would come and is like, why is this class noisy? I would simply give him the list for the noisemakers because I could not easily like say it's this and this and this person who are making noise.
Okay, and you mentioned that now in terms of trying to survive with what you have to deal with in school, you also adopted silence, only speaking to people when you're spoken to.
Yeah, I've always maintained the low profile, even in my high school. I always maintained a low profile. I'll only speak when the communication is in form of a question. You're asking me something, then you only need a simple answer like yes or no.
Okay, now interesting thing here is, and I'd like everyone to notice, Dominic, you are and still are a bright student, right?
Yeah.
Christine, you also were an A student, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear from Martha. Martha, how is Ndongo doing in school? Christine, you also were an A student, right? Yes. Okay, let's hear from Martha. Martha, your TV is on and I can hear it. Please mute it. And so how is Ndongo doing in class?
Ndongo?
Your TV is on and I can hear it. Please mute it. And so how is Ndongo doing in class?
Ndongo anaendelea vizuri. Hata tuliongea na mwalimu. I think sister Rotich alinisaidia wakati aliniambia fenye sasa nitamsaidia. Alinituma shule. Akaniambia niende nielezee mwalimu shida yake. Na fenye niliongea na mwalimu nikamuelezea shida ya Ndongo, nikamwambia akae akimwangalia fenye anaongea ili watoto wasiwe wanamchekelea, na anaendelea vizuri kabisa.
Okay, na wakati Ndongo anakuja anasema watoto wengine wananicheka ama hata nyumbani wakicheza nao wanamcheka, how do you deal with that?
Hiyo ilikuwa challenge kwa sababu hata fenye walikuwa anaenda kucheza hapo nje nilikuwa nawafuata ili nisisikie mtoto anaanza kumchekelea ama kumwambia. Alafu ninamwambia ukisikia mtoto anakuambia hivyo unakuja unaniambia. Alafu sasa mimi naenda hapo nje naongea na watoto na waelezea. Alafu wakazoea, hata huwezi kusikia mpaka wale wakimwambia ati anaongea hivi ama hivi.
Aha, ndogo ana miaka ngapi sasa?
Sahii ako na miaka 6.
Anaweza jitetea wakati akipata mmoja ama wawili ambao wanamkejeli?
I think alitikia juu hata huwezi ukaisikia akinini akisema ati mtu amemwambia. Juu mwanzo alikuwa na uoga. Fenya alikuwa anajaribu kuongea inakataa kutoka. Alikuwa mpaka anaondoka anaenda. Saa hii hata kama ni mtoto anaongea na yeye ajaribu kuongea ikatai kutoka, ana make sure ameiongea na imeisha. Ameitoa yote.
Aha. Okay, well done. And sister, even as we listen to all these experiences, one thing stands out. The stigma is very rife when it comes to stammering because people do not know what it is. What more can we do to ensure that people understand that this is something that happens and it's beyond you?
Like as I talked to Mama Ndungu about what is to be done at home, it is again practical if our teachers are aware. What practically I do is when I realize that, I put it in writing, giving to the parent so that the teacher sees and understands. And even in some situations we plan, even in the next therapy, the parent comes with the teacher and the boy or the child. So, and trying to explain simply because they don't know. So, more awareness to be done in schools. Yeah, the only challenge is because we are few. Maybe we will use now forums like this. Yeah, otherwise speech therapists currently in the country, they are around 20.
Really?
Yes.
And yet the population of those with a stutter is way beyond that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that you work in the city, so you're based here.
Yes.
Do you have tentacles in the Mashinani? Kise, does it have tentacles in the Mashinani?
Not really, but Kise is an institute where we train teachers. And those teachers come almost from the whole country who are in special schools. And it is the same place where children are given assessment. So we have links of teachers the whole country. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, now there is something that most people do not realize, but if you listened keenly to the stories of Dominic, Christine, and Mama Ndungu or Martha, is that there is a psychosocial impact of living with a stammer and a stutter, and especially when people do not understand what you have to live with on a daily. We'll hear from them and, of course, sister, even as we support those living with this condition. Stay with us. It is your world. Thank you for staying with us. My name is Gladys Gachanja. Today, we're taking time to understand stammering or stuttering, and this is ahead of the International Awareness Day of Stammering and Stuttering that is marked on October 22nd. Before we get back to our conversation, the other world, President Donald Trump, who tested positive for COVID-19, is described by his doctor as feeling well and able to perform his duties while quarantining. Now, Trump brother, first announced on Twitter that he and First Lady Melania Trump had tested positive for the virus, but the extraordinary setback for Trump had immediate political consequences just 32 days before Election Day. His challenger, Democrat Joe Biden, is well ahead in the polls and is making criticism of the Republicans' handling of the coronavirus pandemic a key plank in his campaign. Trump, in response, has been betting on an ever more aggressive schedule of campaign rallies around the country, bringing together thousands of people, often without masks. Back in the continent, the lawyer of South Africa's Olympic 800-meter champion, Caster Semenya, who was barred from certain races unless she takes hormone suppressants, is preparing to approach the European Court of Human Rights to challenge the ban. Two-time Olympic gold medalist Semenya has differences of sexual development, DSD, a condition that causes her body to produce elevated testosterone levels.
We win or lose, I think Caster at the end of the day wins triumphantly, not only for herself, but for others in positions such as herself. So I think it's a very important moment, and I think one that the Swiss didn't quite identify or see as a progressive judgment should have happened because of the moment in history that we are in, particularly now. The fight hasn't gone out of Caster. So she's a true athlete. And so she trains every day. You'll find her training. She also trains her own squad of athletes that she has. You know, she runs the Caster Semenya Foundation, but she does train, and she certainly reckons to be in the Olympic squad when it goes off from South Africa to Japan. But strategically, Caster's always thinking strategically, as she does as an athlete. So I don't want to speak for, it's out of my remit, I'm the lawyer, but certainly she is considering other events where she could participate. Which one? That will be for the public to see, but certainly she is considering other events.
Well, back in studio and to our conversation of the day. Remember, the question of the day to you is, do you know someone, or do you live with a stammer or a stutter? And what are the challenges that you face on a daily living with this speech impediment? Well, hashtag new normal. Benham Safi says stigmatization that we have mentioned and still will continue to give different perspectives of the same. Jimmy Kihungi says, personally, I'm a stammerer, 22 years old. It sometimes becomes so annoying when you can't finish a sentence without stuttering. Even reading number 44 is a big problem. From a long time, I suffered from this dilemma and I opted to avoid speaking in front of people or to people who do not understand me. Tito Craig says, I'm one of them. Sometimes you are being laughed at, which makes you feel disappointed to an extent of not talking to them. But as for me, I'm not that affected that much. We thank God. Tito, thank you for speaking to us. Ali Bonea says, I'm living with this condition, or with some men people are making fun of them, which makes them shy to talk in front of people. Ali, this is the reality. And that's why when we went to break, I mentioned we need to understand the psychosocial impact on those living with this condition. And I'll start off with you, Dominic. You've given us different experiences that you have faced living with this condition. At the end of the day, what is the impact it has on you, on your self-esteem?
Okay, Gladys, the impacts are so vast. At some point, utajikuta uko so introvert, hauwezi taka kuongea na anybody. And I'm glad the fight against stigma nimejikaza mimi mwenyewe kujiondoa hapo. At a time, nilikuwa nimetengeneza manati. So, for any child, atanitusi ama atanihiga vile naongea, nilikuwa na pull nampiga nayo. Because a soldier who stammers, when he pulls a trigger, it won't miss. So the only thing ilikuwa uko so introvert, unashinda indoors, because ukienda nje, even the friends watakuwa avoid kama ni wadogo, hawatataka kucheza nawe juu what make a lot of fun to you, unastama, unaongea sijui vipi hivyo hivyo. So at young age nilikuwa so introvert, ningeshinda in the house the whole day.
Okay. Are there opportunities that you have let go because you did not want to deal with people, you know, treating you differently?
Yeah, so many opportunities mingi sana zimenipita, like the one nilikwambia about the auditions of film theater. Yeah, nilifukuzwa, though it's okay. Another thing about the attachment issue yenye nilienda nikafukuzwa, of which attachment is free. Now you can imagine employment. Okay? Nilifukuzwa, of which it's okay. Inanipa ile moral. And one day itakuwa sawa.
Okay, and we commend you for, you know, making sure that every single day you live your best potential. You're currently in university. Which year?
I'm a fourth year.
Well done, well done. What are you taking?
Environmental science.
Well done, Dominic. You
Though
are an inspiration
it
to
affect
many. Aji.
My dream course was to be a journalist. So because, yeah, though nishawahi kutana na Dr. Ezekiel Mtua, tukaongea, akaniambia, nikamwambia mimi nataka kuwa a journalist, though I was in second year. Akaniambia journalism is a vast field. Akaniambia nikuwe a camera, a producer, though my main ilikuwa a news anchor. So ilini affect sana. So nikajipata in environmental science, though nilikuwa na option B to pursue a course in sign language. Lakini sasa nilisema sign language, the outcome from the society, Dominic, wewe cheaply tunakujua sana, sasa ini course gani unaenda? Though personally nilikuwa nataka nifanye journalism or sign language.
And as Ezekiel told you, there are many aspects of journalism that you can plug in and you can do very well. So it's not yet all lost, my dear. You still have an opportunity to pursue them. Eh? And who is your support system in all this?
Support system to overcome this game.
Yeah, who walks with you? Who keeps reminding you it is okay, you can do it?
One, the main pillar is myself. I always fight for my rights. Yeah. Those who know me, they can tell you, or they can tweet. I always fight my battle alone.
Yeah, sister says they have nicknamed you the activist.
Yes, I'm an activist for the silent people.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Then the other thing, I have a lot of friends wanasimama na mimi. Wakina Sly, all of them wanasimama na mimi. In every place nikienda, like in a market ya kuongea, they are always there. Because naweza fika huko then ileta noma.
Aha.
Yeah, sasa ikileta noma, tunamwambia tunataka hii na hii. Tunawatanunulia.
Okay, all right. Very impressive. Christine, just listening to Dominic reminds me that you mentioned you've come a long way, but you also took your own life in your own hands and decided that you're going to live your best life yet. Somebody has just mentioned Christine doesn't even sound like she has a stutter. How did you overcome it? Or how do you overcome it?
Okay. In most cases, I maintain a low profile. And then I would always want to associate myself with the introverts. Yeah, because at times I believe when I have the extroverts around me, I'll not talk at the same pace the way they're talking. So in my friendship circles, most of the people are introverts. And then also I have to motivate myself. I have a life to live. This stuttering, don't mind if I compare myself with my brother, it's not that, it's not chronic. My stutter is mild. So I'll always tell myself, this thing should not limit me to achieve my dreams.
Okay.
And then around me, I have my siblings. They're always around me. They're always around me, encouraging me, telling me to move on. So for me, it's been a little bit easier navigating even the career life in college because I had a pillar behind me.
Okay, but either way, it was not too easy because there's some things that you had to let go of for you to literally find your footing, especially your career choice in university, right?
Yeah. When I finished in fourth form, I was selected to study Bachelor of Science at Moi University. So I joined Moi University, but then I had to ask myself so many questions. After this course, what am I going to do? And the answer I was getting with a Bachelor of Science, you might land in teaching. But then I had to ask myself, okay, with the kind of condition I have, teaching, standing in front of students, and now these are high school students. Then I told myself, I don't want to embarrass myself. Let me get something that would make me inclined in a corner. Like if it's a workplace, the interaction is minimum with the public. And accounting was my option because I was looking at my late elder brother and my other brother. They were doing accounting, they are starters, and they were doing it well. So I decided, okay, let me follow suit. So while at Moi University, I had to change my career to my course to business management. However, in third year, I had to get myself organized. Did I really want accounting? Am I choosing accounting because of my condition, because of my brothers, or is it something I need to do in life? Personally, I had an interest in human resource. It was far much interesting than accounting. So I said, okay, let me decide once and for all and go for human resource. So I had to let go accounting. So I ventured into human resource management. I completed my degree, and currently that is what I'm practicing.
Okay, well done,
Yeah.
Christine. Let's hear from Martha. Martha, you have a 6-year-old boy that you're nurturing. He's already doing well in school. What are your dreams for your child?
Dream yangu ni akikuwa mkubwa, kwanza akuwe na hiyo courage, asiwe na uoga. Sasa ile ni atakuwa, yani yeye mwenyewe atataka niweze kuachieve, niweze kung'ang'ana mpaka ni make sure amepata.
Na wewe unamkumbusha hivyo kila siku kwa sababu he's in his formative years, wewe ndio kila kitu.
Namkumbusha. Namuongelesha.
Okay, ulikuwa umesema kuna wakati mwingine unamfata wakati anacheza na wenzake ndio usikie kama kuna mtu anamsumbua. Lakini you know you're preparing him for the world. So what are the mantras or maybe advice that you give him so that he can stand on his two feet?
Nilikuja nikaona ile sasa namfuata. Sasa ni ile wasiwasi nilikuwa nayo. Sasa naona kama watoto watamdharau nini. Then nikakuja nikaona wacha mwenyewe ajisimamie. Ati akiambua hivi asione ni jambo kubwa. Na nikamfuata na nikaanza kumuelezea. Mtoto akikwambia hivi, wachana na yeye. Wewe endelea tu. Juu niliona namweka uoga ingine na sasa nikaacha kuwa namfuatilia sana. Hata akienda nje na yeye mwenyewe akaanzia kujitetea wewe mwenyewe. Sasa hata akiweza ambua na mtoto mwingine hata haoni kama ni kitu.
Aha. Okay, now, Sister Gladys, I mean, the psychosocial impact is clear. Talk about the kind of psychosocial support those living with a stutter need.
Yeah, I give an example in a first family setup. What I normally advise the parent is not to be anxious. And there is importance in promoting the self-esteem, which is very important. When the self-esteem is affected, most of the things are affected. In fact, like as Christine explains the problem of trying to play it cool and having a problem when people are talking, so many people are talking, introvert and extrovert. So in the family setup, it's good to encourage turn-taking. Yeah. There is a law to be empowered to the parents to allow, like, not asking again many questions to the child, one at a time. And in the family, if everybody is giving a story, so it is good to have some plan of one after you finish, then the other one is given a chance, because that time the child is not aware of what is this, but being given such chance makes the child to build confidence. Yeah. Not only to the parents, and the same should happen again in school, because school is very important. If the teachers are not aware, yeah, and you see how it helped when a child is not being given a chance to read. Another important thing is to make the learners aware that this happens, and they will not take it now negatively and laughing and waiting for the student to read, and they all laugh. As Mama Ndungu advised Ndungu of what to do alone, even when the rest comments negatively, it is the same. We empower the child, and it is possible even to the adults to stand and be able even to talk about it themselves. Yeah.
Which is what Dominic and Christine are doing today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And definitely Dominic, Christine and Martha represent a larger family of those who live with a stutter or a stammer or caregivers of the same. And Christine, you had mentioned in your role as a human resource, you've also found a way to give psychosocial support to employees. Talk about that.
Okay, in my normal practice as a human resource, especially when it comes to recruitment, at times you find that these applicants who come to the panel, and some of them might be starters, but others, because of the tension they have at the interview, they end up stammering. So as a human professional, I always try and make the applicants settle down first. And if at times I realize they're stuttering, I'll always give them time. I always give them time to explain, like express themselves. And if the questions, I'll have to allocate at least a longer period. If the interview was supposed to be 30 minutes and I realize this individual is a starter, I'll have to give them at least a prolonged period for their interview. And then also there is inclusivity. As a human resource professional, I'll always champion for inclusivity. We need to include these individuals at our workplace because, like Dominic has said, she visited the office. He only needed an internship, but the reception he was given was not good. So as a human resource professional, I always make sure I listen to each and every individual. What do they need? What do they have to offer to my company? What are their skills? Just you don't have to dismiss an individual based on their stuttering. I also had an incident. A friend of mine, she's a starter. It was a Zoom interview, and the first question was, "Tell us about yourself." And then she started the stuttering. It was so unfortunate. The panelists just had to end the interview and tell her, "Okay, we are going to send you questions, you answer, and then we'll get back to you." And they never got back to her. That means just in the first few seconds of the interview, they already judged the individual and they dismissed her. So my humble appeal to employers, if you find an individual is a starter in an interview, kindly accommodate them, give them time, listen to them. What do they have to offer to us? And then also at the workplace, the different personalities. We have the introverts, we have the extroverts. So as a professional, I'll always strive to ensure that I embrace all of them. When the issues that arise at the workplace, like disciplinary actions, whereby you need to have a meeting with this staff, I'll always make sure that I listen to each and every individual at the workplace.
Okay, now definitely Christine comes from a point of experience, teacher Rotich, or rather Sister Rotich, and I'm just thinking, if we are creating awareness within our society or family or friends, our teachers, shouldn't we have training for those in human resource to be aware and sensitive to such needs?
That is very important. Yeah, because having that in mind will give them a different thought of giving them, as Christine explains, of giving more time for them to express. There's a need for training to the human resource.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, there is a question that has been posed to you, Sister Rotich, and is, what happens to a child who is speaking fluently and then at some point all of a sudden they start stuttering?
Yeah. Stuttering, it is two-way. There is early stuttering and there is late stuttering. Around 3 years, maybe you realize your child is stuttering. But there are some, they are okay, and they realize the stuttering when they are 7, 8, or even 10 years. So that is late stuttering. So it's there. Yeah.
Okay, and can trauma of any kind cause a stutter?
Not which I know of. Yes.
Or maybe it's something you could look into before you dismiss it?
Yeah, because with experience and what research advises, most of those, you realize again some people get stuttering and eventually it disappears and nothing has been done, no therapy and the rest. And the person said, by the way, I was stammering when I was young, and I don't know, it just disappeared. So the only thing is we can't tell whose will disappear and whose will take long. Though majorities, it might take long in the ones, the late stutterers, those who realize when they are late.
Okay, so we are talking about the interventions that can be done for those that are stuttering, and the earlier, the better. Dominic, what is the support that you've gotten probably from Sister Rotich or other speech therapists?
One, speech therapist, you must pay for it. It is not a pro bono.
True.
And many of Kenyans are poor. They cannot manage to pay for it. Like, I guess is 5,300 per month. If you can collect that money per year, is 60,000. How many people can afford that? None. Maybe few. So intervention, like in Kenya, maybe you stand for yourself. The Equality Act is poor. National Council of People Living with Disabilities, I think they have not included stammering as a disability. Even the certificate, unaweza pata ama ukose, depending with them. So the intervention, maybe if you have a good friend of yours and could motivate, like me, I've read like so many books how to overcome stammering, like 760 pages. But outcome is what? A lot of continue. I'm still struggling. So the only thing, stand for yourself. One thing, I guess it is only in TV. It may highlight awareness of stammering. If I'm lying, you can Google the channel about the stammering. So the intervention convention in Kenya, maybe our group of stammer, we are the family and listen to us. Only that. The rest are stories and ulabalus.
Okay, we hear you, Dominic. Christine, you have found a way to manage your stammer. Has this been as a result of speech therapy?
No. Personally, I have not visited any speech therapist.
Okay.
When I realized my stammering was worse when I was communicating in my mother tongue, most of the time I always try to avoid it. So I would always stick to English and Kiswahili because the phonology for the syllables for Kiswahili and English, they're much easier than the vernacular syllables. And then at times I read so many books about this condition just to get to understand it and how I can be of help to other people. And then also at times I practice my speech, like I would write a speech and just try and read it loudly on my own. If I'm just alone, I just try and read it loudly so that I gain the fluency.
Okay.
The fluency.
All right. You had also mentioned you have found a way of also speaking slowly.
My speech has to be slow. Slow in the sense that if I'm communicating to you when, like, if you shout at me, it will take me like a few seconds for me to respond. Because you see, in normal circumstances, when somebody shouts at you, you also answer by shouting. But you see, when you shout at me, at times I would go blank. I have the answer to give you, but you've already disoriented my mind. So I have to think about it, then I'll respond to you in a very slow, at a very slow pace. Mm, And then my general communication is I'm always very slow. I I can't like wrap so many so many words in a sentence at a go.
Okay, we hear you, Christine. And when we come back from this break, we'll hear from Sister Rotich on exactly the treatment or management methods that speech therapists and language therapists actually apply in helping those who have to live with a stammer. Stay with us. And back to our conversation of the day. And Sister Rotich, somebody is asking, what are the recommended interventions or treatments for stammering?
First, we need to understand that we should not focus very much on the stutter itself, but we need to focus on, is the person able to communicate? We need to listen to what is the person trying to say, but not how is the person saying it. That is the main problem which is in our society. So the first thing when a child is realized to be with this stammering, we try to make a safe environment. The parents to understand, because we need to build the self-esteem. That is very important. So the parents to understand in these stories of turn-taking, giving the child, encouraging the child to speak, and the same should happen in school. This is the first thing we need to arrest. Activities which make even to the simplest level, even explaining about the speech organs, anatomy of speech, the child drawing and shading and explaining in a very simple way. So talking about it and informing the rest, that empowers to the level that the child is able to talk about it. Not really is able to stammer without fearing. That is the first and the main one to be achieved. Because with negative reactions, which is the biggest thing, it will make the condition to be worse. So when we are able, as we hear about the experience of Ndungu, playing with the rest and standing and not even feeling negative if somebody comments negatively, that is the way to go. Then the next step is these stories of blocks, prolongation and blockage and repetitions. We are to see you are stammering in which words. That is what is analyzed when you read. But we cannot handle that before you are able to do it openly, not fearing to stutter. Yeah. So when you have reached that level of you can stutter, whichever what the other person will feel, that is their business. But you have to go on, and that is the way you talk. Then we analyze, okay, as you read this passage, which sounds or the length, at times you are stuttering when the word is long. There is one friend who has shared of, I have a problem with 44.
Yes.
Yes. So having handled the self-esteem story, then we are able now to analyze which sounds, because 44 maybe there is an issue with f sound. Yeah. So part of the activities which we are to do is even reaching the climax would be reading a passage where it has a lot of such sounds. Yes. Reading it, of course, articulating it slowly. Eventually, you are able to talk about it, not now reducing the normal way of speaking, because, and apart from practicing, how is it now trying to communicate with somebody else? And even when you are conversing, and even in a story of phone call, yes, that is the time we are realizing now you are able to pick up in these particular sounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And there's something both Dominic and Christine mentioned. People feel tempted to finish your sentences for you.
Exactly.
A good thing or a bad thing?
Bad.
Why?
You should not finish for me. You wait until I finish, because then I'll not be saying even all, and I'll not be able to express myself. And there is somebody, Christine again experienced such, of the parent waiting. Yeah. The person should be given the chance, whichever length of time. That is, patience is very important.
Clearly, a
Yeah.
lot of it
A
is
lot
needed
of
on
it.
this
A
one.
lot of
Now,
it.
I'm told there's a question for you from one of our viewers, if you can have it up. Danvin is asking, is stammering considered a disability? Good question, because Dominic had also mentioned that this needs to be recognized as such. Is it a disability?
Yeah, as a person status, you realize there are others, you will not even realize that they have the stuttering. They have managed, so that it doesn't even appear a disorder or a disability. The person is able to swallow some words, to avoid mentioning some words. That is the way the person survives. But there is one, even speaking, you are able to identify. When it is identifiable, then it's a disorder or it is a disability.
Okay.
Because disability, it means you are not able to. So you are disabled in producing a particular sound or word fluently. So it is.
A disability.
Yes.
And also the fact that it takes away equal opportunity from you. I mean, Dominic's experience is that he's lost so many opportunities just because he speaks different.
Yeah, that is what happens to Kenya and the policy makers, because it is true they suffer a lot getting even the disability card. Yeah, because they say not unless even you have an assessment from a speech and language therapist who is working in a national hospital, and that is Kenyatta Hospital. See, the all Kenyans coming to Kenyatta Hospital so that they get such access, simply because we are few.
Yeah.
There is a lot to be done
Yeah.
in the government and in policy makers. Yeah, they suffer. That is the reality.
Wow, and that's why we're having this conversation this morning. And Dominic, even as we wrap up this very informative conversation, what is your clarion call to all that do not understand this condition, and also those that have to live with those that have a stutter or a stammer?
One, I've said, imagine if I was partially paralyzed, or I had a surgery, a cleft palate. Angenicheka kweli? Obviously is no. So consider a stammerer like a disability. Wape enough time in everything. One, for students, those who wanapeleka their project and thesis, should be given enough time to elaborate in their projects. Two, our celebrities in Kenya. Sijui if you can allow me to name their names or haikubaliki.
Endelea.
Kuna some celebrities in Kenya. They are using a stammer like comedy to make jokes and fun of them. One of them is Maina and Kingangi. Kuna a time they are making a lot of jokes kwa stammerers. That ukipigia stammerer na credit ya 50, before aseme elo, itakuwa ishaisha. Another people are Butita and YY. They were in Chuka University during, I guess, ilikuwa fresh as what.
Isn't that the same university you're in?
Yeah. And if I'm lying, kwa neza sema, kwali make a joke about a stammerer in a relationship. Iyo siwezi ongelea. They know. The only thing I'll tell them, washukuru Mungu, they are talking okay. Some people here, they are really suffering. Imagine you are watching that show or listening with other people. Watakucheka ama watakuonea huruma. Obviously, they will laugh at you. Yeah. Another thing, clear National Council of People Living with Disability. At time, will take their time to organize a conference of stammering, because even in our parliament only, those who are nominated are only Kilema, maybe, most of them. And if also I'm lying, Waseme, even in the Council of National People Living with Disability, they name only one who an stammer. Even Parliament, if I'm lying, we were a journalist. You have all the records. Name only one MP who stammers. None. Let's wait for the 22 of October, International Stammering Awareness Day. If any of those National Council of People Living with Disabilities will create awareness about people living with disability of stammering, expressing themselves, unless they are watching, so they'll try to cover up. But all my years, I've never seen.
Okay.
I've never seen. So the only thing I'll say, Churchill, Butita, and YY, please, a humble request from you. Apologize on behalf of all the stammerers in Kenya for making jokes and funny on them. It is not good at all. It's so bad and painful. It's so bad.
We hear you, Dominic. We hear you, Dominic. And do we have Christine back? Christine? Okay, then we can hear from Martha as a parent, as a caregiver to a child who she's now finding out ways to nurture him to his full potential. Ungetaka kuambia wazazi wengine aje ambaye ama ambao watapata watoto wao wana shida kama hii?
Venye ningetaka kuambia wazazi ni kuseek advice more kwa watu wengine si vizuri. Ni vizuri uangalie kwenye una seek advice, kwa sababu hiyo ni kitu moja inaweza kutupa. Siku za kwanza ile sasa nilikuja kurealize Tongo ako na shida. Juu ya yule uoga niliseek advice mingi sana. Kwa parents, kwa friends, but mingi ya hizo advice zilikuwa za kupoteza mtu. Kwanza unaambiwa aenda kwa maombi, sijui ama amerogwa, vitu mingi kama hizo. But ni vizuri kwa wazazi usik advice kwa watu wenye wanajua, si kila mtu.
Thank you for joining us this morning, Miriam and Sister Rotich. You have had the pain coming from those who live with this, the reality, and of course the caregivers. What is your parting shot in as far as creating awareness on the same and banishing stigma?
Yeah, there is a lot of failing to know where to go after realizing my child has this and this problem, as Mama Ndungu says, those who can access online, there is Association of Speech and Language Therapists Kenya, though there are few, as Dominic mentions. That's where you can have the contacts of speech and language therapists who are trained. That is one thing. Another thing, there is a group of persons with stammering. Maybe again it's good to give out our numbers. I'm willing to give mine so that we link you to this group for persons with stammering. Joining a group helps a lot because there is a lot of sharing and understanding. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay, I give my number.
All right, please go ahead.
Yeah, it's good. 0722 567676. 0722 567676. So that we link you to persons who have stammering, and it's easier to hear from the rest and journey together. Yeah.
Okay, but those are the people who live with the condition. How about the caregivers? How do we cater for them?
Yeah, you are right.
Do they have a support group?
That is very important. It's true. So far, not yet. But now, it's a good message, which it is good to form support groups as parents. Like even me having Mama Ndungu, it's good we plan and link with other parents so that we communicate. Yeah.
And how can we banish stigma, Sister Rotich? Because we are an African society and a lot of us interpret what we can't understand from myths and misconceptions.
Yeah, we are grateful for NTV because this is part of how we are handling the story of stigma. Yes, using the media. And we need to speak again in different public gatherings. That's why these groups will have power to present that in different gatherings in the church, when there are meetings and the rest, to talk about it. Yeah, and in schools, that is the core, because that is where even they are discouraged. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That is Sister Gladys Rotich, who is a speech and language therapist from the Kenya Institute of Special Education. Also, Dominic Keter, who speaks with a stammer. He was one of the panelists. Christine Alukongo, who was or had joined us. Is she back? Do we have her back?
Yes.
Okay. Christine, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. We had lost you earlier. What is your parting shot?
Okay, my parting shot, I would, as a human resource professional, I would advise employers to have an inclusivity policy for people who have the stammering. Let them embrace them and consider them for employment opportunities that may arise at their workplaces.
Aha. Okay. Thank you, Christina Lukongo, who also speaks with a stammer. She comes from Mombasa. Martha Wamaitha, who had also joined us from Kamulu. Thank you for making time, and we wish you all the best. And Dominic, do you have one more thing you'd like to say before we end this?
Yeah. For those who wanataka kuni follow on social media platform, at Twitter, I'm Dominic Kiplish, Facebook, Dominic Kiplish. For any atapata problem about stammering at Klemewa, just contact me there. Dominic Kiplish.
Dominic Kipish.
Yeah.
Sawa sawa. Asanteni sana for joining us on this conversation, and definitely, okay, Sister Rotich, yes?
Yeah, of late, Kise, we normally see children who are having disabilities and again who have stuttering. We have recently now accepted that adults can come and it is charged 1,000 shillings per therapy. Yeah, so it is good for those who would want to attend such therapy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you know there's also access for adults who would like to get the intervention when it comes to speech and language therapy. Again, thank you all for being so candid and helping us navigate this conversation and learn so much about stammering or stuttering, if you may call it that. Well, tomorrow we focus on something else that is very important, especially at a time where we are all trying to get our footing back. And the Kenya School of Government is launching youth centers across the country, and they will launch the first center in Isiolo this coming Thursday. So we talk to the stakeholders to understand why and how this will be made possible. See you then.